Alright, about a year ago, I did all the Barry Amner run on Avengers. A run that was underwhelming and unsatisfying, even though it had a really unique and intriguing team lineup. I always knew that I would come back and review the 4 other comics that featured that team. This year is Avengers Annual 20. It is part 1 of the yearly disappointing crossover stories. This one is called Subterranean Wars. Like SeaWorld Attacks or Digivolution War, there is maybe a good crossover or a good idea hidden in there, but what we got was weak. I won't even be covering all the crossover, it's not worth it. It's really only part 1 and then part 5 that are a continuing story. Messy cover here. This is by Roger Thomas, and the premise for this crossover is that all the races living underground, they gone to war with each other. Very simple. Most of these annual crossovers had very simplistic plots that allowed for good stories to be told. It was just the case that they rarely had those good stories. Some of the mole people, they attack New Yorkland, and down the street, Big Barda, she is on a date with Hercules Man. Big Barda really got through the male ranks of the Avengers, didn't she? Hercules Man, he actually isn't a member of the Avengers at this point, but he is a welcome sight. So the two of them, they confront the mole people, but they are quickly outnumbered, which is the perfect entry moment for the rest of the Avengers, although 3 of them are missing. Here we have Captain America, Rage, She-Hulks, Kaiser, The Vision, Sandman, and Scarlett Johansson. I did that clockwise order there. The missing ones are Iron Man, Thor, and Spider-Man. Iron Man was kind of shared between the 2 Avengers books. It didn't really make sense, but he has his own tie-in to this crossover, and he is in the West Coast Avengers part. Thor, he had been killed off in his series, and then Spider-Man, he was barely allowed in the Avengers book as it was. The Spider-Man editor was really pissy about Avengers trying to claim Spider-Man and even Sandman. That's effectively why the Barry Amner run ended really quick, and we never really got to see much of Sandman, and definitely not much of Spider-Man. Sandman and Rage, they are easily the 2 who light up the pages here. They feel fresh and like they are bringing something new to the book. That's not to say that the rest of the team are duds. I truly think that the full lineup with Iron Man and Thor and Spider-Man there, I think this is a very enviable team roster. You have the big 3, you You have a bunch of great B-list Avengers. You could have Spider-Man, who is great. Even throw in Hercules Man, like they did in this annual. And then you have Rage and Sandman, who are bringing something unique to the team. Rage is a really good character. And Sandman's redemption arc, which remains unexplored in the Avengers. It would have been a great character showcase. Even the friendship, the two of them strike up, that stuff was good. This was the last Avengers lineup that I felt really was like the book ganning forward rather than trying to look backwards or chase sales. It is a great lineup, or was a great lineup, that I wish got more stories. So the Avengers, they gan into the tunnels beneath New York land to investigate the mole people and why they are attacking. And we meet three of the big players in this conflict. Up front, we have Anne's Mole Man, the bloke in a cloak, that is Tyrannomon, and this guy is called Grotesque. He is the least familiar of this trio. He is an odd Silver Age, Bronze Age character. And after a brief misunderstanding fight, courtesy of Rage, we find out that these three are actually on the right side of the fight here. They are victims. Their underground kingdoms have been invaded and conquered by an army of evil new gods from Apocalypse. There's also this queen woman who will only be relevant in the Iron Man tie-in, which I didn't have. But if you want a quick review of that issue, it is boring. So the Avengers, they admit a bit reluctantly that they are allies in this scenario, and we get some little character beats and interactions peppered throughout, like Anne's Mole Man and She-Hulk's, which neatly teases an upcoming She-Hulk story. And then this bit with Tyrannomon, he's explaining that he is hiding his face because after losing his kingdom, he can no longer drink from the fountain of youth, so he has grown hard. We'll see more of that in the Hulk annual, which I do have, and it is quite good. Might actually review that one. We are introduced to our bad guy for the crossover, a new character. He is called Verman Wunderbar. Never appears outside of this story. We have some fighting underground creatures and a little tear on the bottom of the page there. But this isn't a great comic or a great story. Having all these hidden races fighting each other, that is a great concept. But this boils it all down quickly to two camps. The standard good people versus bad people thing, rather than the war that the title of the story promises. It's just not much of a war, and it's not much of a story either. It feels like a very, very small affair, and it is. and that is totally counter to the idea of it being a crossover. The best parts of this issue are, as I said, Rage, seeing Rage with the Avengers, and also Sandman. And Kazar gets a good showing, but it's just a very generic and unexciting execution of something that does sound like it could have had much more scope, but it comes off feeling like a fill-in story. The backup stuff is mostly just Marvel Comics Presents fodder. I definitely didn't recommend this. I didn't know what else to say about it. It is readable. It is just not remarkable. Except for the Avengers lineup, which was short-lived. And this gives us a rare glimpse at them in action. I suppose I have to give this 7 thumbs up or something.